Today's lesson is about North and South America. And sorry if I sound a little bit weird, I just got my retainers this week. Last time we went over Africa and Australia, and today we're going over North and South America. Fun fact is that the lion spring jellyfish, the largest jellyfish in the world, which can be 60 feet long, can be found on the Californian coast. North America is completely west of Europe and Asia, just northwest of Africa. It's above South America and Australia and Antarctica. North America is completely in the northern and western hemispheres. So it's all in the northern half of the Earth and all in the western half of the Earth too. Some countries in North America: Canada, US, Mexico. And down here, that's Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. And that's the Bahamas. This is Cuba, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, and a lot of smaller islands in the Caribbean. That's Jamaica. I'm just going to go over the physical features now so I don't have to later. The Great Plains stretch all the way from Canada down to Mexico, and it's basically what it says. It's a huge area of flat land, and in the US there's like cornfields and stuff there. It's not that interesting. But the Rocky Mountains run all the way down the continent, and the Rocky Mountains are very tall and pretty cold. The Sonoran Desert is in the southwest of the US and northwest Mexico. It's dry, and they have cacti there that are very famous. The saguaro cacti, it's probably what you imagine when you think of a cactus. There are woodlands, and the Mississippi River is the longest, it's actually the second longest river in North America, and it's very important because it runs all the way down the US, so it has historically been used for many things like transportation and shipping. And this is a satellite view from space, and you can see that some areas are much greener and some areas are much drier. Okay, Canada, the US, and Mexico. These are the biggest countries in North America. The US and Mexico have pretty big populations too, but Canada's just pretty cold. Yeah, the drylands are browned, so not that many people live in Canada. The largest city is Mexico City, which is also the largest city in the entire continent. It's also the capital of Mexico. 439 million people live here, and in all three of these countries, the main religion is Christianity, with the majority of people adhering to it, but these places are more diverse, I guess. Mexico is like Roman Catholic, but the US and Canada are more mixed. Languages: English is spoken by the US and Canada. French is only in some areas of Canada, such as Quebec, and Spanish is spoken in Mexico. And these are the landmarks that I chose. The CN Tower is in Toronto, which is in Canada. The CN Tower is the tallest freestanding structure on Earth, and you can see it from very far away in Toronto. It's basically the landmark of Toronto. And this is Mexico City, which I already said is the largest city in all of North America. And this is Chichen Itza, which is in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. It is the home of the Mayan Empire, and Chichen Itza used to be it's very old, hundreds of years old, and it used to be in the Mayan Empire, so it was like a city in a temple, but then the Spanish came in, destroyed it. Guatemala is also in the Mayan Empire. Central America, which contains Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica. Oh, and before I move on, I didn't really include any places from the US, but I know that most of you guys are from the US, so you guys should have a bigger baseline knowledge of the US. But there are lots of places in the US, like New York City, Chicago, and they have cool sites too. The largest city here is Managua, which is also the capital of Nicaragua. 181 million people live here, and most people here are Roman Catholic, which is because of the Spanish colonialism. Back in the day, the Spanish came into North America and they colonized a lot of places. They spread their language and religion, which is why so many of these countries speak Spanish. Every country here speaks Spanish except for Belize, which speaks English. Antigua, Guatemala, I just chose it because it looked nice to me. And this is Costa Rica. Costa Rica is one of the happiest countries on earth, and the people here enjoy their nature, they protect their nature, which is why I picked that picture. And this is the Great Blue Hole off the coast of Belize. The Great Blue Hole is a sinkhole in the ocean, so it creates a deep circle, which creates the deep blue color. And people like to go diving there. The Caribbean, which is the name of the sea next to North America, and the Caribbean has a lot of different islands, and there are countries there such as Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, Dominica, Jamaica, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Most people like to go to vacation here because it is a pretty nice place and they have nice beaches here. The largest city is Havana, which is also the capital of Cuba, and 44 million people live here. Most of these people are Christian, again because of colonialism, and many different languages are spoken here: Spanish, French, Dutch, English, and Haitian Creole. And the Creole is like a mashup of different languages. And the reason why so many languages are spoken here is because, again, back in the day, European powers found out that this was a great place to grow sugarcane. So they brought a lot of slaves over here and had sugar plantations. This is Havana, Cuba. And Cuba, especially Havana, is a hub for vintage cars because Cuba is communist and it's a one-party system. They banned imports of cars, so the cars are pretty old, but they're still well kept. This is Bridgetown in Barbados. And this is a parade called a Junkanoo Parade in the Bahamas. I think they have it around New Year's, and they all have a parade and party and stuff. And this is in Nassau, which is the capital of the Bahamas. Before we move on to South America, we can take a short break for questions and stuff. If any of you have questions, don't feel afraid to post them in the chat. And also, before we move on to South America, could you guys post something in the chat that says something that you know about these places, or maybe you've been to one of these places, and what you know and how you can relate that to what we said today. Thanks, Anna. I never went to any of these places. Thanks, Carol. I heard that people study invasive species in the Caribbean. Yeah, an invasive species is just a species that is somewhere where it doesn't belong, and they can be a real problem to a lot of these local ecosystems. I'll move on now. A fun fact about South America is that the Atacama Desert is one of the driest places on Earth. Some spots haven't received rain in over 40 years. Sorry, that's just land. It should be rain. South America, I'm sure you can see it on the map, but I think a lot of Americans have the perception that South America is directly south of them, but South America is actually far more east than most Americans think, and it's also not entirely in the southern hemisphere. So I think those are some assumptions that lots of people make that should be corrected. There are only 12 countries in South America, or 13. We'll find out. There's Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, and Suriname. There are 12 countries. And this one is not a country, it's actually an overseas department of France. It's French Guiana. There are many different features. Yeah, Brazil is the biggest country by far in South America. So, the Andes Mountains are actually the longest mountain range on Earth that's not in the ocean. There are longer mountain ranges in the ocean, but this is the longest one on Earth. Lake Titicaca is the highest elevated navigable lake in the world. Navigable means that you can actually travel there. The Altiplano is just highlands in Bolivia and stuff. So the higher in elevation than other places. The Atacama Desert is right next to the coast. And it is again one of the driest places on Earth. Pampas are just like fields. And Patagonia is the very southernmost part of the continent. And it's actually so southern that there are penguins that live here. The Amazon rainforest is one of the biggest places. It's the biggest rainforest in the world, and it's home to the Amazon River. It has lots of biodiversity. So that means lots of different plants and animals like to live here. And it's home to the Amazon River, which is the biggest river by volume in the world. So the Nile is longer, but the Amazon River has more water in it. There are also the Brazilian and Guyana highlands. There's a brand called Patagonia. And the Ecuador is actually named for crossing the equator. So you're right, the equator is like over here. And this is again a satellite view. Can see the deforestation happening right now. Okay, Gran Colombia, which it's called Gran Colombia because all of these countries used to be one bigger country. There's Venezuela, Colombia, and Ecuador, which are all pretty similar. And the largest city is Bogota in Colombia. 96 million people live here. Most people are Roman Catholic, and all of these people speak Spanish. This is Angel Falls in Venezuela. Angel Falls is the tallest waterfall in the world. And these are the Galapagos Islands. They are actually much further to the west than mainland Ecuador. And these places are very isolated, so they have very unique animals. They're famous for their marine iguanas and their Galapagos tortoises. And this is actually where Charles Darwin thought of the theory of evolution. And this is Guatapé in Colombia. This is dubbed the most colorful city in the world. But to verify that, it's very colorful and nice. These are the Andean regions, which is just Peru and Bolivia. The largest city is Lima, which has already 14 million people in it. The population is 44 million people, and these people are Roman Catholic. And the languages are Spanish, but Quechua and Aymara, which are indigenous languages, which are very common here. Quechua is understood by 90% of Peru and much of Bolivia, and Aymara is also used in Bolivia. And if I had to say, Bolivia is a very indigenous country. They're pretty traditional and less influenced than other countries by European powers. This is Machu Picchu, which was a center of the Inca Empire, which was a very powerful empire in Peru. And this is their city, which is very famous. This is La Paz, which is the highest elevated capital city in the world. It's very high in elevation here, so a lot of people, when they travel here, it's like hard to catch their breath because they're not used to it. And this is Titicaca, which I already said before. It's on the border of Peru and Bolivia. And those are like traditional canoes in the water. Niagara River. These are the Gaucho regions, which is Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. I named it Gaucho regions because Gaucho is a South American cowboy. And these places were like pretty influenced by Gauchos. So, like in the Pampas regions, there are cowboys there. The largest city is Santiago in Chile, and there's 74 million people here, and most of these people are Roman Catholic. And also, if I had to say, Chile and Argentina are the most white countries out of all of these. They have a lot of Italian immigrants here. More than half their population is Italian by descent. It's like the most white, if I had to say. This is Buenos Aires in Argentina. Argentina is the home of tango, and it has a beautiful city called Buenos Aires. And this is Gran Torre Santiago in Chile. It's in Santiago, and it's the tallest skyscraper on the continent, and it has a shadow that is 1 mile long in certain times of the day. This is Aconcagua in Chile. It's in the Andes mountain range, and it's the tallest mountain in South America. Oh, and Guarani is the language spoken in Paraguay. It's like an indigenous language too. It's basically just Brazil. Brazil is the largest country in South America, both by land and population. Its largest city is Sao Paulo. 211 million people live here, and the religion is Roman Catholic again. But unlike a lot of these other countries, they speak Portuguese, not Spanish, because Spain and Portugal had an agreement where the eastern part of the continent would be Portugal, and the western part would be Spain. So this belonged to Portugal. Sorry, these are not labeled, but that is the Amazon rainforest, which I already said. Lots of cool creatures live here. Poison dart frogs, piranhas, which will eat you. It's pretty dangerous, but it's pretty cool too. And this is Rio de Janeiro. If you can remember, they hosted the 2016 Olympics. And that is Christ the Redeemer, which is a very famous statue. It's like a symbol for Rio de Janeiro. A lot of rivers are brown because of their sediment inside. Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. Those are the countries. Its largest city is Georgetown. But keep in mind, Georgetown is way smaller than all of the other biggest cities that I said. It's not even in the top 30 or 40 biggest cities in South America. So these are low populated, and only 1.6 million people live here in total. Languages: English, which is spoken in Guyana, Dutch, which is spoken in Suriname, and French, which is spoken in French Guiana. French Guiana actually has the European Space Agency here, so the EU, whenever they launch something, they launch it here. And I think it's because of the proximity to the equator. And these countries also have a lot of Christian people, but they are more diverse. Like Guyana has a lot of Hindi people because they have Indian immigrants here, and there's also a Muslim population here too. So there's a big Christian population, but it's more mixed here. This is Georgetown, Guyana, and this is Cape Falls, also in Guyana. And there's just some local women in Suriname. Okay, we are definitely way above time. So definitely ask questions if you have questions, and I can better explain things. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there are male trees in Suriname. If they didn't have any male trees, it'd be pretty hard to make any new trees. Maple trees? Yeah, the maple tree is like a symbol for Canada. And there aren't really any maple trees in South America, but in the US and Canada, there are maple trees, and you can get maple syrup out of them, which is pretty cool. Okay. I will go over some things again, and then we can have Kahoot. So, North America, that big island, hang on, that big island is Greenland, and it belongs to Denmark. But Greenland is very cold. It's not that green at all. It's very cold. It's mostly Inuit people that live there. And I think I probably could have done a better job explaining the physical features. In the north, there's the tundra, which is the very cold region. Polar bears live there, many islands there. Much of North America is woodland. Woodland is like a forest, but with less trees. The Mississippi River is a very important river. The Missouri River is actually the longest river here, and it flows into the Missouri River. And that's where I live, in Kentucky. This is the Sonoran Desert, which is dry desert with cacti. And if you know Arizona, it's like very hot there all the time. So that's the Sonoran Desert. In the Pacific Northwest, over here, you have temperate rainforest, which is a rainforest, but it's not in the tropical hot regions like the Amazon. It's more of a less mild region. Mount McKinley is the tallest mountain on the North American continent. It is in Alaska, USA. And a fun fact about Mexico, over here, you can see the crater that made the dinosaurs die. So you know how when the dinosaurs died, it's because of an asteroid that came down and exploded. That's where the asteroid went, over here. And that's Puerto Rico is over there. Puerto Rico is a territory of the US, but it actually has a pretty substantial population. Oh. Central America also has Panama, and you might know Panama because of the Panama Canal. It's the canal that the US helped dig to link the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, which was very useful because before, if you wanted to go from New York to LA, you had to go either around South America or across the continent. So it was much faster to just go through Panama. That's why they built it. Yeah. About Haitian Creole. Yeah, I'm doing a short review right now. About Haitian Creole. Haiti was the first independent black nation. They revolted against the French and they won, so the slaves won and made their own country in Haiti. It's very dry. Okay. So just a review, the Andes are very tall, long mountain chains that go down the entire continent. And the Amazon rainforest is very big but shrinking because of deforestation. Brazilian highlands, a lot of people live in the Brazilian highlands. And if you don't know the Amazon rainforest, Amazon River, you should. But the second most important river system is the Rio de la Plata system. So there's the Paraguay River here and the Parana River. and the Uruguay River actually comes here too, and they all empty into the same estuary. That's it. Yes, the penguins live here. Yeah. Oh, and about Chile, apparently Chilean accents are very different than other countries' accents, and some people can struggle to understand Chilean Spanish, so it's very different and hard to understand. Brazil is known for their beaches too, and that is a famous rock. It's a big rounded rock. It's a bonhurt. That's not the name. Like, not that many people live here. Okay, I think we're ready for the Kahoot. Oh, and if you guys could type something in the chat about if you know about any of these places or can connect to a different thing that I didn't mention, you can feel free to put that in the chat. Yeah, I will put the link in the chat, like always. You can go to the Kahoot app or kahoot.it and then type in the code, which I'm also going to type in the chat. 733782. There haven't been any new people in a long time, so if you want to join but you haven't yet, just type that in the chat so I know not to start yet. Okay. There are a lot more people participating than in the Kahoot. Okay, I'll wait for you, Anna. Okay. Wait, Anna, you earned the Kahoot, so okay, I guess we'll start now. I said that Mexico City was the largest city in North America. Didn't really mention New York City at all. So, okay. Yeah, it's not in Jamaica, it's in the Yucatan Peninsula, which is in southern Mexico. If you remember Chichen Itza, that's the Mayan Empire. Yeah, it's Havana because of the communism. Yeah, it's Brazil. Yeah, I think a good thing on the Kahoot is if I didn't mention it in the presentation, it's not the correct answer. Portuguese is Brazil. Angel Falls, Venezuela. Oh, which is actually the inspiration for the Pixar movie Up. This one's pretty good. It's French Guiana. It has France in its name and it belongs to France. Last question. Yeah, it's the Amazon. Congrats to Isabel, Anna, and Andrew. Good job. As well as Brianna and. Okay, my lesson is done. Next lesson is heredity with Brenda.